So we can basically split the United States into two halves. If we look first at the East Coast, for example, okay? On the East Coast, there are a number of key swing states which are going to help decide this election, starting with Florida. You may recall that in 2012, Florida was the epicenter, ground zero, if you will, of that election, in which you saw the debacle between Al Gore and George W. Bush play out. Until recently, Barack Obama was a shoo-in to take the Florida Electoral College votes. He, after all, was very much talking about healthcare and maintaining rights for senior citizens, for example, which is a huge vote. He was also very lucky in terms of getting hold of the Jewish community vote in places like Miami-Dade, for example. What you've seen in recent months, however, is his lead in Florida slip away. So it's now not only too close to call in terms of Obama potentially getting the Electoral College votes for Florida, but in many polls, Romney has now moved ahead. So Florida certainly has moved from a confirmed Obama state to a distinctly possible Romney state. Probably too close to call, but at this point going into it, Romney must be quite optimistic about carrying Florida. That will greatly help his chances of winning the White House if he does so. Moving up the coast, clearly New York, New Jersey, going to be heavily Democratic states. The issue to which we need to look at that is how turnout varies there because of the effect of Tropical Storm Sandy, which hit. Is that going to reduce turnout? Interestingly enough, something a lot of people aren't thinking about, New York State, in terms of the outside of New York City, is heavily Republican. The city, heavily Democrat. If for any reason the turnout in the city is lowered, reduced because of the effects of Sandy, that could have an impact upon the Democrats' ability to carry the state. I still think it will go for Barack Obama, but let's keep an eye out and see what the turnout figures are in terms of the proportions voting within the city and the state. Clearly moving away from New York, if we move inland, we hit Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has to go for Barack Obama if he's going to win the presidency. But again, this is a state that Governor Romney has played very, very hard in and campaigned very solidly in. And it's a distinct possibility that this could go for Mitt Romney also. If he's to win the White House, he needs to campaign and succeed very, very strongly in Pennsylvania. It went for Obama 4 years ago. It's going to be a key to determine whether it is that Romney wins the keys to the White House. Finally, on the East Coast, let's look at Ohio. All the eyes of this election are going to be on Ohio. What's fascinating about the East Coast, of course, is that the polls closed first on the East Coast. So very early in this process, we'll be able to get a feel for how it is that the election is going for both candidates. If you see Florida go to Romney, if you see Ohio go to Romney, this is going to be an interesting night. No Republican has won the White House without winning the vote in Ohio. Ohio is what we call a bellwether state. It goes the way the nation goes. So if you win Ohio, traditionally you win the presidency. The last time that didn't happen was in 1960 when Ohioans voted for Richard Milhous Nixon to be president. John F. Kennedy won that year, but ever since then, Ohio votes the way the nation does. So if Ohio votes for Romney, we can look for a whole stream of events moving across into the mountain states and the West Coast to see whether that momentum can carry Romney forward. If Ohio goes Democrat, it's going to be a long, tough night, I would imagine, for Mitt Romney, because the odds are, if you can't carry Ohio, you can't carry the nation.